right, Jatin, we'll come back to you in just a bit. And in the moments from now, I also have my guest, Wing Commander Rakkesh Singh Chawan, who's a former pilot and fighter and is a renowned aviation expert, joining me live on the broadcast. Mr. Rakesh, as the tragedy for India's worst aviation disaster unfolded, there are many questions which are still unanswered. When the Dreamliner has become a nightmare, such questions are obvious and often, in fact, pin the grief exactly at the point of time when the tragedy did take place. After the Ahmedabad crash, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner will also come under scrutiny once again. It has been touted as a breakthrough in the aviation industry. The aircraft has long been dogged by the safety concerns. How do you think the reason for the crash also pertains to the matter that Boeing 787, which has been under security concerns, safety concerns, from production flaws to emergency groundings, also one of the reasons as to why exactly the loss of so many people at once under a minute did take place?
Hi, good morning to everyone. First of all, it's a very, very tragic accident, and we are extremely sorry. We all are very, very, deeply affected by hearing this particular news. It is too early to say how exactly this aeroplane has crashed, because no doubt there had been some very small little thing related to aircraft battery, but that was long time back. Otherwise, Boeing Dreamliner has been a very, very good aircraft. Otherwise, I really haven't heard any such adverse report on this particular aircraft. And here, if you certainly once the black box is found, we will know exactly how the aircraft really crashed, and it will be too early to comment on the real cause of this particular accident. However, looking at the video and looking at all the inputs what are available on internet, it certainly looks like the aircraft had a very normal takeoff. No doubt Ahmedabad was reporting slightly high on temperature. So when the temperature is high, when the aircraft is fully loaded, when it is carrying a lot of fuel for such a long flight from Ahmedabad to London, naturally there's a lot of requirement of lift to lift off from the runway. So certainly the day was hot, the aircraft was fully loaded, and it was carrying full load. So at this point in time, there's a huge requirement of lift, and at that point in time, the whole of its parameters, what are fed in the computers, or as per which the V1 speed, which is called decision speed, which is calculated, depends on very many different factors. So first of all, the whole configuration of the aircraft has to be right to take off with such kind of a load. So we don't know exactly what kind of data was fed in, but there can be also something related to its computing system. So that means whole configuration of aircraft has to be right. But what we see from the video is that it is a very, very smooth takeoff. Thereafter, it looks like suddenly the both engines have lost its power. The aircraft is not gaining the altitude. So the reason could be very simple, that maybe there could be fuel starvation. Both engine failing at one time is very, very remote possibility. But yeah, if the fuel supply is cut off because of whatever reasons, both engines can fail. So that is the could be one of the reason. The second reason could be bird hit. Maybe there was a flock of birds which have come in front of the aircraft, in front of the engines, because of which both engines might have lost their power. But looking at video, there is no such signature of any kind of fire, smoke, or a debris flying off. Because whenever there's a bird hit, generally you will be able to spot some kind of debris or fire flashes which will come out from the rear of the aircraft engine. So the bird hit also doesn't seems to be a cause. The third thing is the landing gear is down. The landing gear generally is retracted moment the aircraft lifts off, in order to reduce the drag of the aeroplane. The first thing what is being done is, when we see the positive rate of climb, the captain asks the co-pilot to retract undercarriage. So undercarriage are certainly little it is creating a very doubtful situation that in such a scenario, why the landing gears were down. However, even if the landing gear were down, it is not something very serious, but certainly there is something related to maybe the landing gears, maybe the flap positions, and the whole whole aircraft configuration with respect to load, CG, and various other factors which are making aircraft sustain its takeoff. So certainly there is something very, very drastically or something very unusual has happened, because the captain was qualified, the co-pilot was qualified. There is no reason for aircraft to sink, but it sank, and probably they had no time to even apply toga, wherein the aircraft could have recovered because height was too low. Actual height, what is being reported is 624 feet, whereas the real height, which is from the ground, was around 400 feet, which is hardly any distance for such an aircraft to recover. So unless we get the flight data recorder inputs, it'll be slightly difficult, or it'll be very difficult to comment what really happened with such an advanced aircraft when it was being flown by professional pilots.
Absolutely. In fact, sir, as you are giving us such detailed inputs over what could have transpired, and I understand that this is the severity of the time when it is at this point of time difficult to ascertain the key crucial factors that could possibly be behind this tragic and very dynamic and immediate crash. Mr. Rakesh, how do you also, filter out the conspiracy and the theories from what actually should be at the focus at this point of time, as it is important to understand that there are many versions coming at this point of time, and there are several kind of theories also being made as to possibly what could have led. There has to be some official confirmation also to rule out all of these theories coming and making a kind of environment which is deviating people and making more confused statements ahead after of the crash.
See, if you look at the aeroplane, the flap position, a lot of people have talked about aircraft flap. But what I would say that on takeoff, the flat position is so fine that probably it is very difficult to clearly say whether the flaps were down or up, because the degrees are quite less. And it's a very, very thin kind of a aerofoil which is used on the wing design. So it is very difficult to comment on the flap, position. However, if anybody is talking about sabotage and things like that, in present scenario, when the country is facing a lot of challenges from very many different directions, I certainly say that anything is possible, because it is difficult to believe that a fully serviceable aircraft which has seen a very, very clean takeoff suddenly goes down and there is a loss of power. However, for any person to really manipulate with its system and things like that is a very difficult thing. It requires a very, very trained engineer or somebody who knows exactly about this aeroplane. Then only something is possible. So this kind of a possibility is remote. However, certainly during investigation, this will be investigated, because it is a very important thing why such an aircraft should go down when it is so advanced, when the aircraft was being flown by professional pilots.
Well, all right. In fact, thank you, Mr. Rakesh, for being with us on the broadcast.